Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. The Mermaid Plague of Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is an African country that has no access to the ocean. It's landlocked, meaning there are no coastal beaches. Instead, they have rivers and lakes. Yet even in a country with no access to the ocean, stories of mermaids abound. Zimbabwe is one of the most mermaid-obsessed places in the world. Locals not only believe in mermaids, but they believe they have supernatural powers. Mermaids of Zimbabwe are not the beautiful creatures you see in the movies. They have a bad reputation. Mermaids, more often than not, are straight up evil. Locals believe mermaids are behind kidnappings and episodes of torture. They've even been known to kill people. In 2011, workers were trying to install irrigation pumps at a dam near the city of Mutare. Work came to a grinding halt when the laborers began to report seeing mermaids. Mermaids became such a big problem, the whole thing shut down while they waited for a traditional healer to cast the mermaid out. Zimbabwe has a large faith business. Most of their problems, be it sickness or an irritating mermaid, can normally be solved through aggressive faith. Minister Samuel Sipepa Nkomo said every single worker sent to the project quit and said they would never return. The senior politician also said he tried hiring white guys, thinking they wouldn't have such a problem with the mermaids, but they too ran away and refused to go back. Everyone on the job claimed they were being besieged by angry mermaids. This became an issue as the dam is a necessity for the locals to have access to clean water. A faith healer was sent to deal with the mermaids. There was a ritual held to appease the spirits, and that seemed to help with the mermaid sightings. There was never any proof gathered of mermaids attacking workers, but everyone was convinced enough that they were more scared of the mermaids than of not having clean water. Pastor Mapingure says mermaids are a demonic force. The pastor claims the mermaids that attacked the workers at the dam practice witchcraft. Mr. Manyonga, a local, claimed he was tortured by mermaids for 2 years and narrowly survived a kidnapping. This might sound strange to people in the United States, but many people in Zimbabwe truly believe in mermaids. They really think mermaids live in the rivers and can kidnap people. The only way to protect themselves is through prayer and ritual, making mermaids big business. Number 9. The Mermaid of Haraldskær. A little over a decade ago, in the small community of Haraldskær, Denmark, a farmer was busy plowing his field. Everything was going smoothly until he suddenly came across human remains. The farmer was shocked to find a skeleton buried on his property. The upper part of the skeleton was completely normal, like a human skeleton, but the bottom half was all fish. In 2012, the skeleton was put on display at the Copenhagen Museum. Rumor began to spread that the skeleton belonged to a mermaid who was 18 years old when she died. She supposedly had long, beautiful hair. She had long canines in her mouth that were more like shark teeth than human teeth. The skeleton was complete except for her left hand, leaving many to speculate her cause of death. Maybe she was attacked by a sea creature. The even bigger mystery was how she came to be buried on a farmer's piece of land miles away from the ocean. The mystery is fun, but the truth is, this story is a lie. The mermaid skeleton was manufactured by a Danish artist named Mill Ruud. He was inspired by the discovery of a bog body in the same region of Denmark in 1835. He made up the story about the mermaid and the farmer, even classifying his creation as the species Hydronymphus pescae. The skeleton might be a fake, but the tales of mermaids in Scandinavia most certainly are not. One of the most beloved monuments in Denmark is the bronze statue of a mermaid at the edge of Copenhagen's harbor. It's been there since August 1913. The bronze mermaid is based on the 1837 fairy tale The Little Mermaid, written by Hans Christian Andersen. While Disney's The Little Mermaid is a lot of people's favorite, the original story is much darker. In the original tale, the 14-year-old mythical creature is on a quest to find true love, and does go to the sea witch, who takes her voice and her tongue in exchange for legs. But as she walks on land, every step is like being pricked with knives. The prince marries another woman, and the poor little mermaid tries to kill the prince, but changes her mind and dies herself instead. Stories of mermaids are part of Denmark's heritage. There aren't many sightings these days, but there used to be lots in ancient times. Even the Vikings believed in mermaids. Number 8. The Israeli Mermaid. Recently, in 2022, a mermaid was witnessed in the harbor town of Kiryat Yam, Israel. It wasn't just one person who witnessed it, but a whole host of locals. One of the first to report it was Shlomo Cohen, who said he was with friends when he saw a woman lying in the sand in a rather strange way. At first, Shlomo thought it was just somebody sunbathing. But as he got closer, he noticed the sunbather didn't have any legs. Instead, she had a huge fishtail sprouting out from the bottom of her torso. When she realized Shlomo and his friends were coming, she quickly slithered off the beach and disappeared into the water. Sightings became so commonplace in the seaside town that the local tourism board offered a reward of $1 million to anyone who could capture proof of the mermaid. The reward prompted tourists to flood the town in hopes of finding the mystery fish woman. It was said she only appeared at sunset and would always disappear the second somebody caught sight of her. The town spokesman, Nati Zilberman, said the $1 million would be well spent. If there really was a mermaid, Nati said Kiryat Yam would get rich from all the tourists. These sightings began over a year ago now, and the reward money has yet to be delivered. Nobody has gotten a photo of the mermaid. In fact, in 2023, there haven't been any recorded sightings. There were a bunch of sightings in 2022, then they just stopped. What do you think happened? Did the mermaids move away, or was it all a publicity stunt? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Number 7. The orang-ikan. During World War II, Japanese soldiers operating in the K Islands reported witnessing something straight out of a fairy tale. It was 1943 in Indonesia where these soldiers swear they saw real, living mermaids. The K Islands are a tropical paradise. Over 500 square miles of beautiful beaches and unspoiled green jungle. It's the kind of place you would expect to see on a postcard. It would be worth a trip across the world to spend even a few nights relaxing in the white sand. It's the perfect place to find some mermaids. The Japanese soldiers were stationed on one of the smaller islands within the larger K Island chain during the war as part of a surveillance team. They said they saw mysterious creatures in the water that looked a lot like humans. They had human limbs, and their faces were even human-like. The major difference was that the bizarre people the soldiers witnessed had fish mouths. They were still about the same size as ordinary people, but their skin was bright pink. They also had sharp, fish-like spines growing out of their heads. What the Japanese soldiers described is unlike anything you've seen in a kids' movie about mermaids. These things were monstrosities. They didn't even have fishtails like classic mermaids, but totally ordinary legs. The soldiers claimed to witness the weird pink humanoids playing in a nearby lagoon and swimming off the edge of the beach. They often came out in the moonlight, and they never stuck around for very long. Whenever the soldiers tried to get close, the swimmers would dive deep into the water and disappear. The soldiers asked the indigenous people of the islands about them. It turns out the locals called them orang-ikan, which translates roughly to fish human. The locals admitted sometimes they would catch the creatures in their fishing nets, but they weren't dangerous. After the war, Sergeant Horiba tried to tell people about what he witnessed out there on the islands. He urged scientists to investigate the strange fish people of Indonesia, but no one took him seriously. He didn't have any photos or any kind of evidence, and so everyone just laughed at him. To this day, nobody knows if there really are pink fish people living in the waters around the K Islands.
And now for number 6. But first, it's shout-out time! I want to give a big thank you to The Rotten Flash for the generous super thanks. The name might be scary, but we know you're a softie on the inside. Thank you so much. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe to join the Origins Explained family.
Number 6. Atargatis, the mermaid goddess. Stories of mermaids go back to the beginning of human civilization. Mermaids have been part of human mythology as long as gods have been worshipped. Many believe the stories of mermaids were inspired by a real race of humans who lived in the water. The first of these mer-people was Atargatis, worshipped as a goddess in Assyria 4,000 years ago. Atargatis was the goddess of the moon, the goddess of water, and the goddess of feminine powers. Her worship began in Mesopotamia and spread to all the corners of the Mediterranean. The Greeks worshipped the mermaid goddess, and so did the Romans. But whether Atargatis was a real mermaid queen or just another false god is something nobody will ever know for sure. There are a lot of different stories of Atargatis, but one of the most popular is the one of how she came to be half woman, half fish. She was a goddess who fell in love with a mortal shepherd by the name of Hadad. Together, they produced a daughter named Semiramis. Semiramis would become the queen of Assyria and supposedly created the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. But life wasn't all good. Atargatis accidentally killed Hadad in a freak accident. She was so upset with herself and so riddled by guilt that she walked into a lake intending to drown. But she was so beautiful that the water refused to kill her. Instead, she was transformed into a mermaid. From then on, Atargatis was worshipped by the Assyrians as the goddess of the sea. Her great temple was built in the Israeli city of Ascalon. Legend has it her temple was made of solid gold, and she had a statue there crafted from diamonds. Her altar was on the other side of a vast pool, filled with live fishes that the priest had to take care of. Archaeologists have never confirmed any of these facts, but there is a possibility such a water temple did exist at some point. The one thing that's for sure is that her cult of worshippers spread all the way into Greece and Rome, and even into the British Isles. 2,000 years ago, the Britons worshipped a mermaid. Do you believe in mermaids? Let me know in the comments. Number 5. The Columbus Mermaids. One of the most famous mermaid sightings was on January 9th, 1493. Famous explorer Christopher Columbus was in search of new worlds when he witnessed 3 mermaids splashing in the water beside his boat. He was sailing near the Dominican Republic, and he wasn't exactly there on purpose. 6 months earlier, Columbus had left Spain with the intention of crossing the Atlantic Ocean and reaching Asia. What Christopher Columbus didn't realize when he set sail was that a gigantic continent stood between Europe and Asia. On his way to the New World, he encountered the many tropical paradises of the Caribbean and the strange female fish people who lived there. Christopher Columbus was hardly the first sailor to mention mermaids. The idea wasn't completely new to him. He was aware of the mermaid legends whispered between seafarers for centuries. Even ancient Greek sea captains feared the beautiful sirens who would lure sailors to their deaths. Sirens looked like beautiful women, but in reality, they were horrifying monsters. They would entrance sailors with their sweet song, and then their ship would smash apart on the rocks. The sirens would then eat the sailors as they drowned. The point is that Christopher Columbus may have even been hoping to find mermaids. He was on a grand adventure, and when he saw some strange things in the water near his boat, he immediately thought of mermaids. He wrote in his journal that the mermaids breached the surface of the sea. He then wrote that the horrible things were not nearly as good looking as he had been expecting. He saw 3 mermaids rise out of the sea and commented on their masculine facial features. Manatees look masculine, all right. Definitely not dainty, elegant creatures. Although they are cute, modern historians have dismissed the Christopher Columbus sightings as mistaken identity. He probably saw manatees or dugongs. Manatees have tails that are similar to a mermaid tail, and they have roundish faces with human-like eyes. The aquatic mammals could easily be mistaken for mermaids at night, but you would have to be seriously blind to confuse an aquatic relative of the elephant with a mermaid during the day. Manatees can grow 12 feet long and weigh 1,200 pounds. They don't look anything like women. And as an experienced sailor, Columbus should have known better. The mistaken identity of manatees as mermaids perhaps stems from the manatee's tendency to do tail stands in shallow water and from its 5 finger-like appendages at the end of its fins. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Number 4. The Scottish Mermaid. In the year 1830, rural Scots living in the Outer Hebrides discovered a mermaid. A group of crofters were cutting seaweed on the west coast of Benbecula when they spotted a woman thrashing about in the water. The crofters thought the woman was drowning and rushed into the water to help, but when they tried to assist the woman, she kept evading them. She moved like a dolphin, easily dodging the humans as they struggled against the waves. It became a game of tag, which the mermaid unfortunately lost. A boy back on shore threw a rock at the woman, striking her hard in the back. She cried out in pain and vanished into the waves. It was an extremely unusual event for the quiet seaside community, but once the woman was gone, they didn't think much of it. It had been some crazy lady, they thought, and she had surely drowned. A few days later, though, her body washed up on the shore. Locals were shocked to see it was the same woman, but she wasn't a woman at all. The upper part of her was ordinary, but the bottom half looked like a salmon's body without the scales. She had long and glossy hair. Her skin was pale white and soft, but right at the end of her torso was a disgusting fishtail. Crowds gathered on the beach and all agreed they were looking at a legendary mermaid. The boy's rock from a few days ago must have struck hard enough to seriously injure the creature, and she had died in the hours after. The community was in shock. The local sheriff, MacDonald of Clanranald, ordered the creature to be wrapped in a burial shroud and for a coffin to be brought immediately. These were people who lived in the farthest western corner of Europe in the 19th century when superstition still ran rampant. Nobody wanted to be the one who refused the mermaid a proper Christian burial. Legend has it she was buried in the nearby churchyard and that her funeral was one of the biggest the island ever saw. Number 3. The South African Mermaid. In April of 2023, a mermaid showed up on TikTok. It wasn't your ordinary mermaid video, meaning it wasn't some woman in a mermaid suit splashing around in a pool. The video showed a small child lying in the sand. The child's skin was extremely dark. Her hair was a kind of reddish black, and the bottom of her body was that of a large fish. The video immediately went viral, leading to widespread speculation that the child was indeed a mermaid. The caption with the video claimed the mermaid was caught in Muizenberg, South Africa. However, others claimed the footage was taken in Kenya. The video received nearly 10 million views in the first few days. It also prompted local authorities to release statements saying mermaids don't exist. Local figureheads spoke out against the video, calling it fake. Even the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration came out saying there is no evidence that mermaids have ever lived on the planet. The case of the South African mermaid is still a bit of a mystery. There was never any explanation given, and people are still talking about it. Some think the child wasn't a mermaid at all, but was partially swallowed by a gigantic fish. Dan Evan from the website Snopes, which fact-checks bizarre things that appear on the internet, says the video is digitally altered. Dan says it's probably real footage of a dead fish mixed with footage of either a child or a really convincing doll. Government agencies have been very strong in denouncing these videos. The Kenyans were particularly aggressive in their campaign. The Coast Regional Commissioner came out on national TV saying all reports of mermaids being spotted are fake. This seems like a huge overreaction for a silly TikTok video. Number 2. Yemaya. In Santeria, the Afro-Caribbean religion practiced by people around the globe, their mother goddess is Yemaya, a mermaid queen. The tales of Yemaya came to America in the 16th century, brought across the ocean by African slaves. She was believed to be a demigod associated with the element of water, but her origin story is different depending on who you're talking to. Yemaya is a mermaid goddess in Brazil, Haiti, Cuba, and the US, and that's just to name a few. Her name and her history vary from region to region. For real practicing witches, Yemaya is a goddess of the moon and sorcery. She helps heal wounds and traumas, but she can also be fierce and is said to manifest as a furious tidal wave. She first made it to Cuba on the transatlantic slave trade, but because Cuba was already colonized by Spaniards, practicing Santeria was made illegal. It was only recently that the religion was finally recognized on the island, even though it has been practiced in secret for decades. Like so many other religions, Santeria has its own myths and legends. The priests and priestesses treat Yemaya with the same kind of reverence Christians have for Mother Mary. She is a holy figure, the goddess of the sea and the creator of all living things. It's entirely possible that Yemaya was inspired by a real African mermaid or queen thousands of years ago. Number 1. Mermaid in Delaware. On January 6, 1880, James Raymond took a stroll along the coastal dunes near his busy outpost in Delaware. He was part of the Indian River Inlet Life-Saving Station. It was the busy season, and Raymond was inspecting the shore. As he hiked through the sand, he came across what looked like a dead body floating in the surf. James got close to the edge of the ocean before he realized that he was looking at something not altogether human. The body did look like that of a woman with long, flowing hair, but it had the tail of a porpoise instead of human legs, all gray and slimy. James stood there gaping at what he was starting to feel was a dead mermaid. He never did get the body out of the water, and nobody ever saw it again. But James did report what he found, and that report made it into the local newspapers. One tabloid even printed an artist's vision of James's encounter with the creature. The Alexandria Gazette wrote, "The sea nymph created great excitement in the vicinity of the station, and many inhabitants think its presence is bad luck." People couldn't just be excited about a mermaid in 1880. They had to assume it was some kind of evil omen. Thanks for watching. Do you have any good mermaid stories? Let us know in the comments below, and let me know if you'd like to see a part 2. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye!